The work of David Blackwood has captivated collectors for decades. The artist's depictions of history and life in Newfoundland, actively pursued by bidders across Canada and beyond our borders. While Blackwood's market at auction has displayed strength and growth over the past decade, recent years have witnessed record prices for both his paintings and his prints, both of which Cowley Abbott has been privileged to feature since our earliest sales. This fall season, we are very excited to feature two masterworks by David Blackwood, a painting and a print, both included in our fall live auction on November the 27th. Ephraim Kelloway was a neighbor to the Blackwood family in Wesleyville, Newfoundland during the 1950s. On the Kelloway property was a shed with a wooden door that Ephraim would frequently paint in bright and contrasting colors. David Blackwood discussed the painting of the door in an interview, recalling that his neighbor once used stovepipe paint and the door was silver. Another time it was fluorescent pink. Gradually, he began to add bits and pieces to the surface, a horseshoe and lettered tin. The surface paint peeled and the texture became part of the overall effect. And the elements took over where he had left off, transforming the door slowly over the next several years as it shed its coats of many colors. When David Blackwood's brother decided to become a lobster fisherman, Ephraim Kelloway sold the Blackwoods the small shed for $25, a place for the lobster gear to be stored. The shed was then moved from the Kelloway's land and onto the Blackwood property, close to the artist's Wesleyville studio. Blackwood's summer visits to Newfoundland had him examine the door more closely, recalling its long, layered, and colorful history. Blackwood recalled his teacher at the Ontario College of Art, artist Jock MacDonald, telling him that every artist needs a subject. It dawned on Blackwood suddenly that here it was in front of me, the door becoming my gateway into the exploration of large-scale painting, and the results were an epiphany. The artist composed his first drawings and an etching inspired by the door in 1981. Watercolors followed, and eventually, the first paintings in 1985. Blackwood would later embark upon a major series of door paintings that were exhibited at Gallery 1 in Toronto in 1990. Started in 1989 and completed by Blackwood in February of 1990, Ephraim Kelloway's Night Door was painted leading to the Gallery 1 exhibition. Blackwood's focus locks closely upon the door itself in this canvas, limiting the sight of the surrounding shed that we typically see more of in other door works. This close focus has the shed door commanding the space of the composition, extending past the lower edge. The textured surface of the door shimmers in jeweled tones. The most recent silver bluish-gray coat of paint on the door gives way to a kaleidoscope of color, the elements chipping and peeling the layers to reveal greens, reds, oranges, and purples in competing tones, a symphony of color. Light shines upon the upper right area of the door, while the lower left remains in shadow, further expanding the spectrum of tones and revealing Blackwood's memory of how light affected competing pigments on the Kelloway door. The door is held in place by hinges of bright greens and reds to the right, and on the left, a square knob in cool tone is contrasted with the blazing red of the latch and padlock below it. What we do see of the surrounding shed mainly is in solid coloring, allowing the full contrast against the door and exposing a decade of extensive paint layering. Following the 1990 Gallery 1 exhibition, the door images have become widely reproduced in exhibition catalogs and posters, subject becoming a central one for Blackwood collectors. This attention likely led to a failed theft of the actual door in 2002. Thieves removed the door from the shed, but didn't make it far, as it was later found abandoned nearby. Following the attempted heist, the shed door remained protected in Blackwood's studio for the rest of the painter's life. Acquired directly from the artist by an Ontario private collector, Ephraim Kelloway's Night Door is making its auction debut with Cowley Abbott this fall. Additional celebrated David Blackwood themes and motifs are found in 1993's Loss of the Flora Nickerson. This etching and aquatint also featured in our upcoming fall live auction. From a Newfoundland private collection, the rich monochromatic blue-green pigments of this print highlight a dramatic tone to the unfolding story. The division of the image field gives importance to the massive whales and reduces the ship crew to more supporting roles within the composition, emphasizing the artist's devotion and exploration to the harsh Newfoundland environment. In the distance, the ship, the Flora Nickerson, flounders to the unforgiving waters as its crew and passengers row to safety. The stress and sorrow of the loss is felt through the solemn expression of the men aboard the lifeboat, as a father protectively holds his young boy. This timeless protective gesture of compassion is paralleled with the whales beneath the surface. On both sides of the surface, a parent encircles their young to instill a sense of safety and security. This subtle mirroring is an interesting comment not only on human compassion and relationships, but speaks to a larger theme of interconnectivity between humans and their environment and the fragility of one's very existence. David Blackwood based this and other works on a narrative with very personal roots. Raised in a seafaring family, both the artist's father and grandfather were ship captains. Blackwood was very aware of the grave threat to every mariner presented by the elements. The crew could be faced with the worst possible scenario, being forced to abandon ship and left to the cold isolation of a brutal environment. A celebration of his work in both painting and print, we are delighted to feature these two important artworks by David Blackwood in the Cowley Abbott Fall Live Auction on Wednesday, November the 27th at Toronto's Globe and Mail Centre.